All right, good afternoon everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Today I'm joined by Melinda Kroll, CEO of Y Australia, Michael Ford, our out of school hours executive manager, or OSH manager, we'll get it right, and Leon Tan from our people and culture. Anyway, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the various lands we meet on today. For me, that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. It's been another good week in Victoria with 0 cases recorded for a week straight. I hope you have been enjoying the relaxation of restrictions and of course the warmer weather, although not today, over the weekend. Daniel Andrews will be making announcements Sunday the 8th of November, and hopefully he'll announce even some further restrictions to be relaxed. However, just to recap, at the moment, our current situation is that King's Swim is now open with a density limit of 20 people in the pool. Regional camps are open with camps running for regional school groups. Camp Manyang, which is a metro camp, remains closed, and metro school groups cannot conduct camping at the moment, but we genuinely hope that Sunday will bring some very good news for camping around that. Children's programs are operating as COVID normal, and of course Michael's going to give us an update on OSH. For recreation, the slide on the screen shows the latest reopening dates for specific services at centres. And as you can see, there's different colours. Those ones in green are reopening dates coming up, and all the others have already occurred in terms of opening. So please continue to check the emergency.ymca.org.au website to get the latest reopening dates. And as usual, if you're required to return to work, you will be communicated with by your manager and provided at least 3 days' notice. For those of you returning to work, be expecting to see some changes. We've received clarity on the density rules. For example, in recreation, dry areas is based on 20 people per venue or 1 person per 8 square metres, whichever is less. However, a venue is defined as a space that has a barrier or a wall around it. So for example, a stadium may hold more than 1 venue as long as we have appropriate barriers set up. So each centre is going to be different, and we're going to be working through all of the detail of what that is looking like and have been doing so prior to opening. So when you come to work, you'll need to get orientated specifically to your centre regarding the layout of venues and COVID safety and density requirements. As restrictions and density limits change over time, we'll also need to be flexible and respond quickly. However, please await our instructions before making any changes to the centre, as there's a lot of information and some misinformation going around. So please await direction before adapting to any changes that are announced. So moving on, expressions of interest are now open for the National Youth Retreat, which is from the 25th to the 28th of November. The National Youth Retreat this year is a virtual event designed to connect, celebrate and empower young staff and volunteers aged 18 to 30 from across the Y. The program has been designed to create opportunities for personal and professional development by gaining organisational knowledge, exposure to networking opportunities, including intergenerational forums, and to develop ongoing connections with other inspired young leaders across the Y. So if you're aged 18 to 30, I highly encourage you to submit an expression of interest to attend the forum. It's such a wonderful opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals from across the country and have your say into the strategic direction of the Y. So in my follow-up email, I'll provide a link to fill out the expression of interest form, and please know you'll just need your manager's approval to attend the retreat. So if you're interested, please let them know. Applications close 9 AM Tuesday next week, so you don't have much time. So please check your inbox for tonight's link. Finally, you may recall a few weeks back, the P&C team ran an employee wellbeing self-check-in survey. And I'd really like to thank everybody who took the time to complete the survey. Receiving your feedback is really valuable and appreciated. And I'm going to hand over to Leon, who's going to take you through some of the results from that survey.
Thanks, Carolyn, and hi everyone. My name's Leon and I'm part of the People and Culture team at Shared Services. Look, we've been in and out of lockdowns, and it's only now that we are slowly returning to normalcy. These times have been extremely unprecedented, and as an organization, we want to gain insight on how you are feeling, what we are doing well, and how we can do better to support you during this time. A couple months ago, we launched an anonymous employee wellbeing self check-in as a way for you all to communicate with us and to share your thoughts and feedback. With that said, I want to give you guys a bit of an update on the current results of the employee wellbeing self check-in. And look, for those that have completed the check-in already, a huge thank you to you. And if you haven't checked in just yet, look, you still have until the end of the month to complete a self check-in. I've got the QR code right here, right now. So for those that are watching and those that haven't actually done it yet, feel free to do it while I go through some of those results. So we've had quite a few check-ins at the moment. We've had 663 employees check in. That accounts for roughly 12.5% of our workforce. And if we want to actually see that in greater detail, we can see most of these check-ins have been from recreation. But look, it's been really great to see people checking in from all of our sectors across the Y. So I guess the question now leads to, how are we feeling? Well, in the check-in, you are asked to rate how you are feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so great and 10 being awesome. And as we can see, many of us feel pretty good with an average score of around 6 to 8. But also, I guess it's important to acknowledge we can see a few scores below 5. And so understandably, many of us as well are doing it quite tough. Now, some of you might go to me and say, well, hey, Leon, how can you put a feeling into a number? And you're right, you really can't put how you're feeling into a number. And what I wanted to share with you was some of the words that were provided when we were asked how we were feeling or how you're currently feeling. And as you can see here, here are actually the top 15 most words in all of those responses that I've found. So what do we got? We've got anxious, bored, bad, flat, frustrated, normal, okay, stressed, tired. So look, I hope by you guys reading some of those words, it really puts into perspective, I guess, what some of us have been going through as well. Now, respondents were asked to answer the following questions. How well do you feel the Y is supporting you through COVID? And what can the Y do better to support you during this time? And what I wanted to do for you guys is group together some really main themes that have recurred throughout all of those responses so far. And what I've actually done as well is put an actual response under each theme. So you guys can really get a bit of a feel for the way that somebody's feeling. So what are we doing well in supporting our staff? There's actually a few things. The first thing is organizational wide communications. And look, many of us have been really impressed with the amount of communication that has been given this year in terms of JobKeeper, Rec Restart, certain sites closing down as well. So it's been really great on that sort of regard. Furthermore, JobKeeper. Many employees are satisfied that we have been able to implement JobKeeper, which is understandable given for many of us, if we're currently working, you know, at the end of the day, everyone has bills to pay. So it's really provided really great support for people. And last of all, what are we doing well? We're doing well at keeping employees connected through individual check-ins, whether it's through this check-in itself or through our managers as well. So that leads me to my next question, and that's, how can we better support our employees? There's a few things as well. The first thing is to provide more tailored communication. Now, despite recreation being our largest sector, it's really important that we are able to address the other fantastic work undertaken in our other sectors. What else can we do to support our employees? Managing our workload. So it's not only those who have been stood down who have been doing it tough, but for those that have been working, it's been really difficult for some to really try and manage their workload. I'm really talking about shared services as well at the moment, because many of our shared services employees we found have been on reduced hours, but have had to complete the same, but if not more, work than they would have been completing on normal hours. One other thing as well that I like to note is providing more information surrounding job security. Now, look, there's been so many changes in the organisation, but also in the world as well. Job security is undeniably a really big concern for many of us, and it was one of the most common things that I found when I was looking throughout all those responses so far. So, guys, as you can see, we have some really informative results so far, but there are still a large portion of the organisation that haven't checked in with us just yet, and we would really love to hear from you. So the check-in does close this month, and results will be shared with you all shortly after. If you have already done the check-in yourself, a massive thank you to you. And if you have, it'll be great if you can share it with your colleagues and encourage them to complete the check-in. Thanks so much, and back over to you, Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Leon. I really wanted to let you know your feedback is leading to change. For example, you said you'd like more information on each sector every week or more tailored communication. And I hope that you've already noticed this happening over the last few weeks. Last week, someone actually asked about, well, what is OSH? So today, that's why we've got Michael Ford telling us all about this important and growing area. In regards to feedback around managing workloads, firstly, I wanted to express my sincere gratitude to all of those who have been working just so hard this year in what has been really demanding and challenging circumstances. And I'm also pleased to let you know that most of us in shared services have now returned to normal working hours to support our reopening. This also leads to the concerns around job security and certainty. So just to give you an idea of how stand-ups are tracking, last week we had approximately 2,000 staff working, and by the end of next week, I anticipate this number will increase to around 3,000. So I hope this provides some assurance and some optimism. Finally, as always, I'd like to address the questions around working from home. As I mentioned in last week's webinar, those of us who are working from home will continue to do so until at least March. By March, we'll have a plan in place for returning to the office. Part of our planning will be looking at prioritising teams whose roles require office space more, for example, the contact centre team. We will also consult with you over the coming months to hear your questions or your concerns about returning to the office. But I hope that March timeframe gives you some time and some stability for coming back to the office, and you can be assured that the process of doing this will put your comfort, your well-being, your safety and your concerns at the heart of all our decisions. So now I'd like to introduce you to Melinda Kroll. Melinda is our CEO of Y Australia, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing around the nation.
Thanks, Carolyn. And I'd just like to say hi to everybody. I'm really excited to be here, and I am really excited that can take some of your time to just explain what's happening at the national level to everybody. I hope this isn't going to confuse everyone, but here's what the Y looks like as far as sites around Australia. And we are a federated organisation, and just like Australia has 8 Australian jurisdictions, which are our states and territories, within the Y Federation, we actually have 14, and we operate as a collective under one trademark and under one brand. So my job is actually to work with the National Council of YMCAs, which is actually what the official name of us all collectively looks like together. Many people just see the Y as the Y, and that's exactly the way you should see it. But we just wanted to give you a little bit of the nuance around that and show you what it actually looks like underneath, just so you've got some idea. The National Board itself is actually made up of 10 member association nominees. So 10 YMCAs nominate people to be on the National Board, and then the National Board also appoint 2 other directors. So my board's made up of 12 people. And I should say it's not just my board, it's all our boards, because we're all part of the National Council. And what might surprise you too is that even though the National Council and the National Office and the National Board have this word national in front of them, we are actually effectively only an office of 18 people, which is really 12 full-time people. And I'm actually really proud in those 18 people 3 of those people are actually young people, which is, you know, part of our mission and reason for being. Within the national body too, we also operate the National Office for Young People and Community Impact, which is a collective leadership approach to the Y in Australia. And Ross Kerwood, who is actually the CEO of the WAY, is also the national advocate in that space. Y Australia also oversees the Why Not platform, which I hope is something you've all been involved with and had a chance to have your voice in. Next one. So the Y in Australia is bound together as a social enterprise, which is, you know, as a way of delivering services and programs to Australians, and we operate under one brand and one belief. And our belief is in the power of inspired young people, because we actually know that when you have inspired young people, they are powerful and they can shape the world. So the Y offers services right across the age cohorts, and we're all bound by this thread that runs through, which is our young people. It doesn't mean we just service young people. What it means is we service society to make sure young people are empowered and inspired. And that's the way our brand works. The character of our brand also is something that I want to talk to you all about, because when a Y really shines, it means we're being heroic, creative and nurturing. And I've already heard conversations this morning from Leon about how you're really trying to nurture staff and be creative and heroic at the same time. So congratulations. The Y is also a member of what we call the World Alliance of YMCAs. So we're part of the global alliance of these YMCAs, which is a pretty special thing to be part of. And the Global Alliance commenced in 1844 in London. I think a lot of people think it commenced in America, but it didn't. It was in London during the Industrial Revolution. And today, the World Y is a federation of over 121 national movements, of which Y Australia, which is all of us collectively, is one. So 121 national movements with over 90 million members collectively around the globe. In Australia, the World Alliance gives the right to YMCA Australia to use the logos and the trademarks. And then Y Australia is also part of its regional alliance. And we're actually part of the Asia Pacific Regional Alliance of YMCAs, and we sit with New Zealand in that cohort as well. So I've popped the email of the World Alliance YMCA up there for you, and I do encourage you to go and explore it. This year has definitely been one of the most challenging years for us all, right across Australia, right across the world, and no more felt more in Australia than Melbourne. So well done, everybody who's sitting in front of this webinar today. Thank you. The national movement as a collective, and it's my job and Carolyn's and the collective of CEOs, is to make sure the legacy of over 170 years of the Y in Australia is not lost because of COVID. And that's no mean feat. And we do need to be really creative and heroic. And I do want to especially thank Carolyn for her participation with all the CEOs from across Australia, because it has been a very, very tough year. And I know they have all had you guys front and centre of their minds, and the fact that the Y does need to survive into the future. I just want to give you a really quick example, but if you look at the Ys collectively, most of the Ys across the world have been significantly affected, with most suffering anywhere between 50 to 75% of revenue loss during this period. Australia's actually done better than that, which is good, but the rest of the world has been affected. And just as a really, a statistic of what is happening, America couldn't run their summer camps over July this year because of COVID, and that impacted them by losing $2 billion worth of income and over 250,000 jobs. So this has been a really tough year for everybody around the world. Which is why, as we head into our annual general meeting, which is when we bring all the CEOs together, and CEOs and boards and directors and young people, we are really looking at the topic of resilience, recovery and reimagining the Y, which is exactly what the World Alliance is doing too. And Carolyn spoke about our youth forum, and I'd really love you to come if you can, because the really important part about our get-togethers is that we have 50% as a minimum of young people in the room, and their voice is really heard and encourages our strategic direction. We've been working with some reimagining labs recently, which are people inclusive of some people in Y Victoria. And some of the topics that are coming up are things like identity, diversity and inclusion, education and employment, sustainability, health and wellbeing, which are all really, really important topics and will help guide and lead the Y of the future. One of the other really exciting projects I'm really proud of is the fact we're working collectively with the Commonwealth Government on a way to consider how young people's employment pathways aren't too disrupted by COVID. Unfortunately, what we do know is that youth unemployment is going to be significantly affected by COVID, and it's really important that we have a solution to that. Next one. That's why we are looking at some innovative, creative and heroic solutions with the Commonwealth around how we can look at how the Y in Australia can support young people through a career support program, I suppose is what you call it. We're calling it Y Careers, and it's there to develop the fact that people will be able to be supported through a career jungle gym of these days. It's not necessarily a linear path. It's a way that we can work across industry, across jobs, and possibly even across employers as time goes on. One of the real concerns of COVID is the fact that there are some really significant social, economic and political consequences of a generation that could be severely disrupted in education and also employment by COVID. So it's really important that there are some contemporary, some really youth-focused employment initiatives across the industries that we work in. Our major industries being out of school hours care and childcare, and I know Michael's about to talk to you about that, but also community recreation, and we also have a footprint in disability, which is pretty exciting to think about. So the Y in Australia is in a very unique position to demonstrate an integrated approach to employment of young people. And that's what we intend to do. Next one, we intend to work with partners. We intend to work with industry. I think we intend to work with the government really, really closely on this. And the Commonwealth are very, very excited about working with us at the moment. And just in finalising off, I've popped this slide up for you because it actually shows how we're looking at the Y Career Agency offering. We've recently received over $200,000 from the Paul Ramsay Foundation to do a feasibility study on this Y Career Agency. And you might see some surveys and things come out to both the P&C teams, but also young people from around Australia to contribute. This will truly be a co-designed approach with young people, and we want to hear your voice. So look out for those things. Now, hopefully I haven't confused everybody or spoken too quickly, but at the end of it, happy to take any questions. So thanks, Carolyn.
Thanks, Mel. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Ford, and I'm the Executive Manager for OSH, or Outside School Hours Care. And I was lucky enough to start with the Y at the start of March, so just before COVID struck. And as Carolyn stated on last week's webinar, we had a question asking, what is OSH? So we thought it would be a great idea to come along and explain what we do. So the Y Victoria are an approved outside school hours care provider, or OSH, which means we operate before school care, after school care and school holiday programs in primary schools around the state. Before school care runs from 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and the after school care runs from 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The school holiday programs is a full day program that runs during the holiday periods and includes a great mix of in-house days, incursions and excursions. 75% of Victorian primary schools have outsourced the running of these programs to third-party providers like the Y. These programs are for 5 to 12-year-old children all year round, and the function of the business sits in our children's program sector along with long daycare. And over the years, the OSH industry has gone through many changes. As you can see from the slide, it is a sector that started with pretty humble beginnings in the 1970s and 80s. And as the years and the industry has evolved, it has become more regulated and the quality of product delivered has improved dramatically. OSH, like ELC, is highly regulated and is monitored through the Department of Training and Education and the national body, the Australian Children's Education and Care Quality Authority, or ASEQA. This means our educators in OSH are kept to the same high regulations as ELC, while only operating half the contact time each day. In outside school hours care, we believe that today childcare is much more than just early learning and education. It's about enriching children so they can develop to their full potential and preparing them for a future where they can confidently and healthily step forward into every stage of their young lives with bright, inquiring minds. And at the Y, we empower children by inspiring them to learn through discovery and adventure. We are lucky enough to partner 28 primary schools in operating their outside school hours care program and around Victoria, with 18 programs in metropolitan Melbourne and 10 programs in regional Victoria. We also support our recreation team with the running of their school holiday programs at 7 recreation sites around the state. And we currently employ over 200 educators. Our educators, who are the face of our services, with the children, plan the weekly program, which is based on the children's interests and needs. We always ensure we are providing the best educational experience and outcomes we can, and children are provided with a sense of agency through their time at the service. A standard day at before and after school care and holiday club can range from art and craft, cooking experiences, outdoor games, group projects and group games. So why the investment in OSH? OSH, compared to any other new business like ELC or Kingswim or even recreation, doesn't need a lot of capital to start up with, as we rent or hire the space from the school. And we can see revenue come back into the organisation within a few months, which makes it a really important step post-COVID. Our 2025 outside school hours care strategy is to grow our current portfolio to an aggressive target of 120 programs. It's a lofty goal, but the market in Victoria is very competitive, with over 15 providers actively tendering for these services. But there's huge opportunity with over 1,000 primary schools in Victoria that offer before and after school care. And there are over 150 contracts that are up for tender each year through the government, Catholic and independent education sectors. Recently, we've been very active in this process for new schools, and we've been successful in bringing on 2 new schools with St. Therese in Bendigo and our Trafalgar Primary School down in Gippsland. We've also been shortlisted at 2 other schools at Malvern Primary School and Chandler Park Primary School. So what makes us different from the other providers? The Y is the only non-for-profit outside school hours care provider in Victoria. And we have a very unique offering at the Y, as it is based on the community vision of schools and the Y coming together to provide a program that is built on guiding children to be resilient, active and mindful, and to invest in their personal mental health. This is what makes the Y such an attractive proposal to new schools looking, because we're just not an OSH provider. We are so much more. We are looking to extending our value add through all teams at the Y to provide a united product that can benefit all sectors. We are actively working with our camping and our youth programs teams currently on how this will look moving forward. I'm really excited about the next direction we are taking the OSH team at the Y and the opportunities we can provide for our communities. I do want to take this opportunity to thank all our educators and the OSH management team on providing such a valuable service to our communities through COVID. You've all been rock stars. Finally, if you'd like to find out more about OSH and the children's programs at the Y, you can check out our brand new website that was just launched last week. I want to give a personal big shout out to the marketing, communications and digital team who built and launched this website really quickly and in a short amount of time. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, and the families will love it as they come online to look up our services. Thank you, and I'll hand back over to Carolyn for the Q&A.
All right. Well done, Michael. I think that was really thorough. So thanks for that update. There's just 2 questions and I did answer them, so I will go through those quickly as we're running out of time. Is there a minimum number of hours that those on the 2 different levels of JobKeeper are required to work? I did have to phone a friend, and no, there is no minimum hours. Generally, we can only schedule you for a minimum of 3 hours, but that has always been the case. So there is no differences. The next question was, will Kingswim returning to operations on Monday, the 9th of November? Where will that put them as their own entity as far as eligibility for JobKeeper for the January quarter? Look, I think we can expect with confidence that Kingswim will continue to be eligible for JobKeeper into the January through to March time period. We don't expect to see revenue with only 20 people per pool returned to normal. And we just hope that by March, we will be in a position to return to normal. All right, so that is the end of the questions. So thank you, everybody. Before we finish up, I just like to congratulate actually our Virtual Y team. Virtual Y, as you know, was born out of response to the pandemic, a way to keep people connected and supported, and a way for the Y to continue to provide our face-to-face service in a new digital capacity. And we have 10,000 people now actively using it every day, which is just fantastic. And so for this reason, we have won a nomination to this year's Australian CIO 50 event, which recognises Australian organisations who have created and delivered innovations that have driven rapid change across their business. It's a wonderful achievement to be recognised for this award, and to show that our commitment to investing in innovation and technology is really being noticed, not only within our organisation, not only within our customer base, but nationally as well, and potentially even internationally, which is fabulous. So congratulations to the whole Y team, Virtual Y team, and everyone who's been involved from the start. It's so wonderful to be able to provide this platform free of charge to our community this year at a time of need. And I can't wait to see the direction that it takes in 2021. So look, that's all for today. Thank you so much, Melinda, Leon, and Michael for joining this week. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I will sign off. Cheers. Bye.